got a STIHL FS 240 tore apart here on the bench. This thing is literally giving all it can give. Oh, let's see. Let's do a pressure test on the fuel tank. See if it'll hold pressure. We're building very little pressure. I've got the cap tight. I've got my pressure tester hooked to the return line. Let's see where it's leaking. Okay, it's leaking at the grommet for the tank vent. And also I noticed any little bit of movement on the main fuel line connector where it goes into the tank, and it's leaking there too. Pulled the clutch housing off of it, and as you can tell, that clutch drum has got a major lip on the inside of it, as well as the clutch shoes are wore down past these plates. On a good clutch, these shoes should be about the same height as these plates. The throttle cable, where it goes into the throttle cable pivot, is absolutely wore the plastic out. It is so loose in that pivot arm. The rope rotor got a little slack in it there. The starter pawl is loose in the rope rotor, and I noticed right at the very end of the starter rope on this, the starter rope is ready to break. I noticed the starter cup is sort of wore shiny on the outside of it. Well, the bearings inside the engine on this are very noisy, and this thing actually would start and run. It was running very lean. It wouldn't idle. I took a carburetor apart, and the fuel pump diaphragm has got a lot of memory to it. That fuel pump diaphragm should be flat where it goes on to the channels on the carburetor. Let's dig in just a little farther. Let's do a vacuum and pressure test on the engine itself. Get my tester hooked up. Alright, let's pull a vacuum first and see what happens. I've got the intake blocked off with some rubber plugs, and the exhaust is blocked off with the block off strips, and I've got the spark plug in. It's not leaking on any of my ports. I've already checked it. This thing has either got a leaking cylinder base gasket or the intake gasket is blown. Let's see what it does with pressure. It's got a major leak somewhere at the bottom of the cylinder base, or right at the bottom of this intake flange. This machine just would not be worth fixing. This would be what I would call a boomerang. It would just be back time and time again. Everything on it would fail. I ran the date code on it. It was manufactured, I think, in January of 2017. There's just too much wrong. You have to replace all the rubber grommets, the tank vent. You would have to go ahead and split the case, put new bearings and seals in it, and you'd have to replace this throttle cable, because as you can tell, if I can get the throttle cable out of that pivot arm, it is wore so bad. Hard to do this one-handed. As you can tell, that's not round anymore. It's more oval shaped. And the plastic, you can tell by the wear on the inside of that, it's not round. It's not its normal size. So that is just going to be so loose inside there. You would have to replace that clutch, clutch drum. I would go ahead and change that clutch bearing, because it is not very free at all. Yeah, it wouldn't be worth fixing. This would be what I would call a mechanic's worst nightmare.